I've had people recommend me games, horror stories, etc, but this is the first time people are asking me to watch a movie in the YouTube comments and in the Discord. Links in the description, by the way. Many of you have been asking me to watch Primitive War, so I finally did, and followed by that request was to put some of the dinosaurs in the Jurassic films. Well, I heard you guys out and I'm glad I did. Look, I'm tired of people saying Rebirth was terrible because it isn't. It's more of a meh. However, respectfully, at least to me, Primitive War destroyed Jurassic World Rebirth in terms of the plot and acting. I have to admit, I didn't know that much about Primitive War lore before I watched the movie. I knew some basic information like the intestine-eating pterosaurs and the raptors, but that was it. And speaking of raptors, for the first time in my life, I think I found raptors that can give the Jurassic franchises a run for their money. I mean, why is an assault rifle not doing any damage? So without spoiling anything for the intro, that's just the intro by the way, there's going to be horrendous movie spoilers later on in this video, so look away if you don't want that. In this video I'm going to be putting 6 of the Primitive War raptors in the Jurassic franchise to see how they would fare, to be more specific Jurassic Park 3. Yup, the land of the most intelligent dromaeosaurs on the planet, and the one thing in the trilogy that's racist to humans. Ordinarily there are few movie animals without any magical abilities or powers that could carve out a comfortable living in the franchise, but these guys are on a level that made me stand up when I watched the movie. Nothing should be that powerful for the size. If you want more videos like this, hit that subscribe button for your almost daily dose of prehistory, and sometimes other things, and join the Discord to give me suggestions of your own, and take part in different events. But I'm really excited about this video, so let's get on with it. We're going to start off with the Utahraptors in Primitive War first, laying out their stats, weaknesses, and compatibility to side beast terrain. And for this we're going to include 6 Utahraptors, including Cyclops. Yes, I know there were basically hundreds in the movie, but that would be just unfair, so I'll be plopping the number Sophia thought was in the valley originally. First off, I'll address the elephant in the room, their size. They dwarf the Jurassic Park's raptors. To put it bluntly, they're more close to the Indoraptor in terms of size. From what most sources say online, they measure around 24 feet long, 10 feet tall, and weigh anywhere between 1,300 and 2,000 pounds. Like the Jurassic films, it appears that the novel variants of the animals are much more insane compared to the films, so I have no doubt that the novel had almost 1 ton Utahraptors, but in the film at most I'd put these guys around 1,400 pounds, which is still massive. That's twice the weight of the average grizzly bear, and despite having the same length, they are substantially heavier than the real Utahraptor. Well, unless we use max size estimates. But you know what I like about these raptors even more than the size? It's their feats. I love the Jurassic franchise, favorite dinosaur trilogy ever, but every time you want to put something against a dinosaur from that franchise, someone always says feats, which are important and something I use sometimes, but dear heavens, some of you overuse it. It's like you bypass common sense to fit your own fantasy. Well, guess what folks, the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park aren't the only ones that are bullet resistant. That's right, these little, I mean big bastards, were absolutely tanking shots from assault rifles. At first I did not believe it. When I was watching the movie I was like, man, these guys are terrible shots. But then I saw the soldier go right up next to one and loose rounds into the thing's body, and it did not die. I actually had to stand up and replay it because I thought the dinosaurs would be somewhat realistic. So why are they so durable? From what the movie showed, you need to shoot them a good amount of times or get a clean headshot to kill them, because that's the fastest I've seen them drop. But bullets aside, these things can survive building level explosions. Cyclops got stabbed in the eye. I'm surprised he's still standing because I'm sure that thing touched his brain, at least a bit. In terms of intelligence, they are kinda on the level of some of the raptors in the franchise. Cyclops, for example, knew how dangerous humans could be, so he isolated one and started to bite down on his throat so the noise would be muffled. But at the end of the day, that's when he lost his eye. He's also very specific about something, when he wants to. A normal animal would just go and eat something else, but Cyclops, he just wanted to finish that soldier he attacked specifically. I guess you'd want to kill anyone who literally made you into a Cyclops. Anyway, he stalked the area around, psyching everyone out and used his pack mace to overwhelm the Americans until he got what he wanted. Which he did, well kinda, since his target offed himself by having 2 grenades blow up, which Cyclops somehow managed to survive. Another advantage about these animals is their ability to breed. Not just the Utahraptors but the Deinonychus as well, the few that originally came bred and populated that area. But for such a large animal in comparison, the fact that they could fill the valley with hundreds is something of nightmares. So once they're in the territory, even with apexes, it doesn't seem to affect their population. Speaking of apexes, I might as well give some disadvantages of these guys. The first one isn't really a flaw but is still something to note. In the novel, these guys would be hunted by the Utahraptors, which is about 3 times their size. Also, despite their intelligence, Cyclops and the others are very brash. I'm sure they know how dangerous guns are even after some time, yet they still rush in head on, which got a lot killed, including Cyclops, which is one mistake the raptors in Jurassic Park 3 wouldn't fall for. Speaking of them, what about quilled raptors in Jurassic Park? How do they compare stat wise? If any of you know me, then you know how much I love the raptors in Jurassic Park 3. My favorite design of any raptor there, period. And they're also the most intelligent, or at least battle intelligent ones there. When it comes to setting up traps and tricking humans, they're the best in the business. But before that, I of course have to address another elephant in the room. Even if we were to use the lower weight estimates of Cyclops and his companions, the Utahraptors are still like 4 times smaller at around 310 to 320 pounds. As a matter of fact, they are the lightest velociraptor subspecies in the franchise, but not by a lot. I think Blue, who is the biggest, is around 70 pounds heavier, but it's not that much. These guys are long and slim, which helps them navigate the packed jungle sometimes, compared to the other Saurine variants that are a bit more bulky and mostly hunt in the plains. Don't let that size fool you though. Quilliam and his group are extremely powerful. As a matter of fact, in a cutscene, they managed to actually kill the Spinosaurus. Granted, it took more than a dozen of them to do it, but hey, who's counting? These velociraptors can also set up traps for humans, and I don't mean the classic traps, I mean using other humans as traps. Somehow these animals know exactly where to target a human but not kill it. With surgical precision, a male paralyzed Udesky by puncturing his spine, but did not kill him. Believe it or not, it's really easy for someone to die like this, so for them to know exactly where to hit and not let the poor man pass out is outrageous. Anyway, they used my guy as bait to lure out Amanda and the others from the tree, and it worked like a charm, but of course, plot armor saved her once again as her foot got caught in a branch. Outside of intelligence, we don't see that many power or durability feats from them. I mean, yeah, after they were done with the Udesky, they just snapped his neck like butter, but I don't think that's too hard for an injured animal. Humans in general aren't the best sources for power scaling genetic monsters, unless it's something really extreme. However, since they are just another subspecies that was made on the island along with the others, aside from Blue and her group, it can be assumed that they have some of the physical perks they do. Superhuman strength, some bullet resistance, but not a lot. But they don't have the full crash out mentality. What makes them the most dangerous raptors in the franchise yet, in my opinion, is their ability to hold back most of the times. So they don't just rush in. The reason they were in such a hurry to get to the main cast before they got to the beach was because they at least had some sense that other humans would potentially have guns waiting for them. So if they didn't reach Grant and the others in time, chances are that they'd just watch from the edge of the forest and return to a nest that's slightly empty. So that's one thing they have above the primitive war Utahraptor. However, they aren't as durable or strong. But there's one thing that beats them in that stat, and that's the Spinosaurus. I've talked about Asset 87 so much in this damn channel that I'ma just give you the basics. In terms of raw power, very few things match him. Some of the people working on the models of Jurassic Park 3 said he could create an extinction event on the island over time if he wanted. He could destroy a plane, snap a bull T-Rex's neck with his hands, and even fracture one with just his bite force as seen with Big E.T., and the ability to hold back an industrial automatic door with one hand. Even if it was just for a few seconds, that's really impressive because that's tons of force he held back with just one hand when he was dehydrated and starved. But durability is where he really shines. No matter what T-Rex bites him, he's basically not affected by it. Bull got a perfect shot and all he did was bruise 87 and some blood showed on his skin. With Big E.T. it was basically the same thing, and he got thrown over and his spine took the force of 10 tons of body falling on it. Speaking of things hitting him, he's gotten shot by powerful guns, hit by a plane, slapped so hard by a chemtrail that he fell over, and yet none of those spikes pierced his skin. He's pretty fast too for something of his size, pushing more than 20 miles per hour if he really wants to. But one of his main driving forces for the behavior are the T-Rexes and people. People especially. When he sees a person, it's game on. He will sometimes put his life at risk to kill them because of what one of the scientists did to him as a juvie. And the T-Rexes are mostly just a territory thing. He doesn't want any other large theropod in his space, so he eliminates them. It goes so far that he actually seeks them out sometimes. But he kinda has the same problem with Cyclops, and that's his brashness. While he may be decently smart, sometimes he just brawls out without any regard for safety. But he might get to be as brash as he wants soon because I think it's about time we drop Cyclops and his crew onto the island. Alright, so in terms of terrain, it's perfect. They couldn't ask for a better spot. Vietnam's rainforests and grasslands here and there are pretty close to Sorna's, and so is the climate. Sorna might be a bit more humid, but not to the point where these guys would be affected, and in terms of prey, they should do pretty well. There's many hadrosaurs for them to target, and a few others like the Stegos, Ankies, but unlikely they'd target them, unless really desperate. And a pack of 6 Kodiak bear-sized murder chickens should be enough to bring down any hadrosaurs here. But when one solution is found, a problem arises, and that's of course competition with Quilliam and his pack. Those two groups are bound to meet at some point, or at least be aware of the other's presence. The Park's Raptors would likely be the first to know because based on the movie, their sense of smell is slightly better. However, it's a new scent they'd be more curious about, so they'd investigate. Look, if it was the first film's Raptors like the big one, I'd say they'd just jump in without a care in the world, but when Quilliam and his group see animals 4 times their weight, they won't dare attack unless they isolate an individual. But that would be very hard, seeing that Cyclops and his members usually aren't that far from each other. But occasionally they do branch out individually, it seems. And in this situation, 3 of the park's raptors may attack a lone Utahraptor and bring it down. And knowing how clinical they can be, they'd immediately go for the throat to silence the Utahraptor so the others aren't alerted. But in doing so, one of the Velociraptors are going to get hurt or even killed, especially if they try to attack Cyclops. But it's very unlikely they'd get to separate each Utahraptor, so that's a low possibility. Other than that, the only reason I see the park raptors going full on psycho on the bigger Dromaeosaurus was if Cyclops and the others were near the nest. The parental instincts would likely kick in, starting a full on war, but it would be a very short one. Not only are the Velociraptors outnumbered by 1, but they are also seriously outclassed in the power department. For them to have a chance of winning, they'd need at least 9 members because although this franchise has powerful raptors, they can't take firepower like the Utahraptors. Blue got damaged by a pistol and she's the strongest Velociraptor in the franchise. Yes, big one people, she's bigger and stronger than that thing. Anyway, primitive war Utahs were tanking a good amount of gunfire and massive explosions. And with such a big size difference, the fight would just be unfair. So sad to say, but Cyclops and his pack wins. Unless Quilliam and any other survivors know it's a losing battle and decide to leave the territory entirely. However, the war wouldn't be over, since Sorna has multiple populations of raptors, so Cyclops would see more if he explores. But seeing how fast this species can multiply, in a short time the pack of 6 will be over a dozen, and that dozen would kill off any local Velociraptor packs on the side of the island, forcing the raptors to act like the Deinonychus in primitive war and bolt when they sense the Utahs. So it would be a total takeover when it comes to territory, and the quilled raptors would be forced to make their nest in more secluded areas, or even possibly the opposite side of the island, which could then put them in more competition with the striped variants. But with that said, if a pack of Velociraptors stumble across one or a pair of Utahraptors, chances are they wouldn't hesitate to kill it. It's like what some predators do today in the wild. Big hyena packs will sometimes kill lone lions, and wolves, also very rare, will occasionally kill grizzlies. But this is likely with a lone Utahraptor because even 2 of these guys still would require between 4 to 5 Velociraptors to kill them. In a few short years, that entire side of the island would likely have at least 100 Utahs. You know what? 80 minimum. Probably still less than the overall Velociraptor population, but with their size, 50 is still too much. And at this size, the animals would be affecting the larger inhabitants like the Stratosaurus. However, this could be a different thing for the apexes. The Rexes and the Spinosaurus and Sorna will be fine against a normal sized pack, and it's very unlikely that the entire population would just band together on an apex. Seem they only pulled that Infinity War nonsense on the armed soldiers, unless of course these 2 species clashed in the novels, but I didn't find anything about that. So the Spinosaurus would still maintain his status as King of Sorna, unless the Utahs actually do decide to take him out, because I'm sure like 10 of them could, but again that's unlikely. In the very worst case scenario, both parties would just avoid each other. The raptors more than 87. Only predators that would really suffer are the park's native raptors, since they'd kinda have to live like the Deinonychus and avoid the Utahs. But again, a decent sized pack wouldn't hesitate to take out a few Utahraptors here and there, so it's safe to say that the primitive war Utahraptors would thrive on Sorna, until of course it gets overpopulated. But even with their breeding rate, that's many generations to come. They do well. In fact, they'd force other Dromaeosaurs to the brink in some areas, and while they still wouldn't be the apexes, I'm sure their reputation would be enough for the Velociraptors and the medium-sized theropods to stay out of their way. So in terms of survivability, I give the Utahraptors from primitive war a 90% survival rate. They lose some points because they'd be new to the environment and some of the rules there, so some of the mega theropods could pose a significant threat at first. But again, Cyclops is smart enough to stay away. I know you were expecting me to break down a fight between 87 and the full-sized Utahraptor pack, but it simply won't happen. The Utahraptors, even if they populate the entire island, are unlikely to suddenly just join forces to kill 87. But hey, if it makes you feel better, a pack of 10 or a bit more would likely bring them down. Seeing a bit more of the park's raptors were able to do that. So their insane durability, strength and intelligence would allow them to quickly establish themselves on the island. Honestly, it was a bit sad Carpasuchus wasn't in the movie. That and the quests were the first things I saw about primitive war about 2 years ago. In the comics of course. Or some fan art. I'm not sure. But hey, still a good movie regardless. So, let me know what dinosaurs I should put next, and in what Jurassic film. If there's any points I missed out, don't hesitate to let me know in the comments. Anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you guys in the next video.